I think we probably all know all those films by heart.
That most of us in Gen X kind of grew up with.
I actually chose something maybe a little out of the box for most.
I mean, this is a winner all the way around.
Greetings and salutations. On this channel, I talk about generation-related topics, but in this video, other people are going to be talking. 4 members of Generation X are answering 2 questions. They are, what movie do you think best represents your generation / people around your age? And what movie do you think is most popular with your generation / people around your age? All of them have movie-related YouTube channels and or podcasts, so go check them out. The links are in the description. Now let's hear about some Generation X movies.
I'm Christy Lemire from the Breakfast All Day YouTube and podcast. I'm turning 50 years old in a matter of days here. I was born in 1972, so I am very firmly in Generation X. As for the movies that best represent my generation, I'm gonna go with Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Valley Girl, and maybe E.T. for something kind of wholesome. Just the idea of the hangout element of all of those movies and just the mundane nature of suburbia. I grew up in total suburbia, so that's my childhood. So movies like that were a little raunchy and a little sweet all at once really resonate with me. Most popular films in my generation, anything John Hughes, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think we probably all know all those films by heart. A lot of love for Shawshank Redemption out there. I don't love Shawshank. I appreciate that it matters culturally. People can quote it endlessly. I am not as moved by that, but I recall that as a kid, all those John Hughes movies were what we wanted to be. We wanted to have that kind of snappy retort in the moment. We wanted to have the guy we had a crush on fall for us too, or whoever that is in your world. So a lot of that is problematic in retrospect, but at the time that was so 80s and so us, or so we thought.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a movie reviewer on YouTube with my channel Movies and Munchies. I'm 47 years old. I was born in 1974, and I'm proudly a Gen Xer. Now, when I think of movies that best represent my generation, several do come to mind, and I'm sure that you've probably heard of most of them. There's The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Heathers, Pump Up the Volume, Boys in the Hood, The Goonies, Wayne's World, Clueless, and then one of my all-time favorites, Better Off Dead. Now, there are a ton more that capture the spirit of Gen X, but I don't want to spend just a bunch of time boring you with that list. But probably the movie that best captures Gen X would be Reality Bites, directed by Ben Stiller, and it stars Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, Janine Garofalo, and Steve Zahn. Now, Reality Bites captures the sentiments of Gen X struggling to find our place in the world. We were told that we must go to college and we have to get a degree, while we then try to balance the tension of maybe just doing whatever we want to do, which is something else, and not necessarily following in our parents' footsteps. Now, the struggles the characters go through, they feel genuine and they're mostly relatable. And then when you combine a great story with awesome actors, and then you throw in this killer soundtrack, I mean, this is a winner all the way around. But with Reality Bites, I don't think it was that popular of a film. I mean, it's probably gained some traction as years have gone by and more people have discovered it, but I don't think it's going to resonate nearly as much with anybody outside of the Gen X demographic. But if we're going to look at the most popular film for Gen X, I'd guess that probably The Breakfast Club tops most people's list. And while this has a few of the same actors as in St. Elmo's Fire, which also came out that exact same year, in The Breakfast Club, the actors are playing high school students, placing them closer to the Gen X age. Now, The Breakfast Club, like Reality Bites, it has a great soundtrack. But what makes this a standout are the performances that capture the angst of Gen X. And then also the desire that many of us have where we wish people would just leave us alone. I mean, we're self-sufficient, crafty, we can be entertained with the minimalist amount of items, and we're feisty and a bit rebellious. Plus, The Breakfast Club, it's very quotable, and it can even convey a lot through simple hand gestures.
Hi, I'm Armando from Kiss the Reviews. I'm one of the co-creators of Kiss the Reviews on YouTube, along with Cory. I am 46 years old, so I am kind of towards the tail end of the Gen Xers, but I am representing said Gen Xers today. The movie that I think best represents our generation and people around my age is Wall Street. Growing up in the 80s, and I think most of the Gen Xers, as they got older and were a little bit older than me in the 80s, grew up with that greed is good kind of mentality. And you got to go to college, you got to get a good job, you got to make as much money as you can. I think it kind of encapsulated that whole um, 70s into the 80s kind of attitude that most of us in Gen X kind of grew up with. As far as a movie that is the most popular with people in my generation or people around my age, I would have to say The Breakfast Club for a few reasons. It was a bunch of different personalities that you have the rich kid, you in the rich kids, you have the jocks, you have the geeks, you have the kids that didn't fit in. I think it kind of encapsulated everything um, that growing up, latchkey kids and that kind of thing, growing up in that generation. It just represented a little bit of everybody, so everybody can kind of identify with a character or multiple characters in that movie. So I would have to say that the Breakfast Club would probably be the the most popular amongst people of my generation.
Hi, my name's Cory Idle. I'm co-creator of Kiss the Reviews, available for viewing on YouTube. Subscribe now. And I will be representing Generation X for this particular subject, as I am 43 years old. I was on the tail end. And as far as the movie that best represents my generation, I actually chose something maybe a little out of the box for most. I chose Boys in the Hood. In my mind, it brought light to a community and a real problem in American society that very many people that look like me were very unaware of. And I think it started a lot of education in that regard. As far as the most popular movie of our generation, I'd have to say it would probably be Reality Bites. Really, anything that threw up a middle finger to the capitalism that represented the 80s so prevalent. That's really what rang true for me during my high school years, were movies like that. Yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot. Check us out. Kiss the Reviews.
That was fun. Even though the questions were about movies, I think it gave us a good look into Generation X in general from Gen Xers themselves. Their answers gave us some insight as to what it was like to grow up when they did. There were common themes in common movies, but also different takes, so I think that was great. From mundane suburban living to tense urban life to latchkey kid teenage angst and rebellion to growing up in the great as good 80s. Everyone in this video was born in the 1970s, so we didn't quite get a take from the earliest Xers, but I think we got a nice span of opinions across that time frame. They do happen to be shown oldest to youngest, and the two oldest films were mentioned by Christy, so I do think perhaps exact time would also play a role in choices. That being said, there was one movie mentioned by 3 out of the 4 in the most popular category, and that was The Breakfast Club. There were a few other films mentioned by 2 people in general, and those were 16 Candles, Boys in the Hood, and Reality Bites. And here's a list of all of the other films mentioned in general. I didn't ask them about the most influential movie for Generation X, but I think that based on their responses, we'd probably hear some of the same titles again. What film best represents or is most popular with your generation? And what do you think is the most Generation X movie? Comment below. Now, a big thank you goes out to Christy, Chris, Armando, and Cory for answering these questions for me. Again, they all talk about movies themselves on their YouTube channels and podcasts, so you can check them out with their links in the description. I enjoyed and hope you did too. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to see more content on the generations. And I will see you next time.
Party on, dudes!